Good evening and welcome to another edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games for Friday, September 16, 2022. Episode 26 coming at you right now, and we're into another game topic tonight. You saw two toys before, which was Slinky and... what else did we talk about? We talked about Slinky. No, I got faked out there for a minute. Oh, my goodness. Do I have to go back and look at my... Yes, I do. Slinky and the Yo-Yo. There you go. My goodness. No, I'm not having a senior moment. Thank you very much. No. Well, we're talking about a game tonight that's been around for a long time. In fact, it's one of those playground games that you see all the time in... schoolyards and in backyards all over the place. Yeah, you know what we're talking about tonight, right? We're talking about Hopscotch tonight on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Let's get into this game of Hopscotch here, a vintage game that goes back to the days when you were playing in your schoolyard, or your backyard for that matter. A popular playground game in which players toss a small object called a lagger into numbered triangles or a pattern of rectangles outlined on the ground, and then hop or jump through the spaces and retrieve the object. It's a children's game that can be played with several players or alone. It's a physical and cognitive workout. Well, the court. To play hopscotch, a court is first laid out on the ground depending on the available surface. The court is either scratched out in the dirt or drawn with chalk on pavement. Courts may be permanently marked where playgrounds are commonly paved, as in elementary schools. Designs vary, but the court is usually composed of a series of linear squares interspersed with blocks of two lateral squares. Traditionally, the court ends with a safe or home base, in which the player may turn before completing the reverse trip. The home base may be a square, a rectangle, or a semicircle. The squares are then numbered in the sequence in which they are to be hopped. The first player tosses a marker, also called the lucky bean, onto the court. The marker, typically a small stone, a coin, beanbag, or a small chain with a charm, should land in the square without bouncing, sliding, or rolling out. In Ireland, the marker is usually replaced with an old shoe polish tin or a flat stone called a piggy. In the United States, the marker was called a lagger, and in the 1940s hopscotch, laggers made of rubber were sold by the Hoppy Toy Company of Utah. The marker must be thrown in sequential numerical order completely within the square without touching the line. The player then hops through the course, skipping the marker's square. Single squares must be hopped on one foot, except for the first single square where either foot may be used. Side-by-side squares are straddled, with the left foot landing in the left square and the right foot landing in the right square. Optional squares marked safe, home, or rest are neutral squares and may be hopped through in any manner without penalty. After hopping into safe, home, or rest, the player must then turn around and retrace their steps through the course on one or two legs, depending on the square, until reaching the marker's square. The player stops in the square before the marker and reaches down to retrieve the marker and continue the course as stated without touching a line or stepping into a square with another player's marker. Upon successfully completing the sequence, the player continues the turn by tossing the marker into square number 2 and repeating the pattern. If, while hopping through the court in either direction, the player steps on a line, misses a square, or loses balance, the turn ends. Players begin their turns where they last left off. The first player to complete one course for every numbered square on the court wins the game. And although the marker is most often picked up during the game, historically in the boys' game, the marker was kicked sequentially back through the course on the return trip and then kicked out. Now, hopscotch is attested 1200 to 600 to 500 BCE from the painted gray ware era of prehistoric India. It is also listed among the games prohibited by Buddha. Now, it is attested that an ancient form of hopscotch was played by Roman children and soldiers, but the first recorded references to the game in the English-speaking world date to the late 17th century, usually under the name Scotch Hop or Scotch Hoppers. A manuscript book of games compiled between 1635 and 1672 by Francis Willoughby refers to Scotch Hopper. They play with a piece of tile or a little flat piece of lead upon a boarded floor or any area divided into oblong figures like boards. In Poor Robin's Almanac for 1677, the game is referred to as Scotch Hoppers. The entry states, "The time when schoolboys should play at Scotch Hoppers." The 1707 edition of Poor Robin's Almanac includes the following phrase, "Lawyers and physicians have little to do this month, so they may, if they will, play at Scotch Hoppers." In 1828, Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language also referred to the game as Scotch Hopper, a play in which boys hop over scotches and lines in the ground. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the etymology of hopscotch is a formation from the words hop and scotch, the latter in the sense of an incense line or scratch. The Journal of the British Archaeological Association, volume 26, dated March 9, 1870, states, "The sport of hopscotch or Scotch hoppers is called in Yorkshire hopscore, and in Suffolk Scotch hobbies or hobby, from the boy whom gets on the player's back whilst hopping or hicking, as it is there termed, and in Scotland it is known as peavers, peverels, or pabats." Czechs can feel the word as a bohemianism because Scotch, or as a Czech skok, is a Czech imperative of skotsit, equal to jump, and hop is commonly used as an interjection of jumping. There are many other forms of hopscotch played across the globe. In India, it is called stapu, or kit-kit in Hindi, Nundi, Tamil, Thodakul, Billa, or Kith-Kith. In Spain and some Latin American countries, it is called Rayulia, although it may also be known as Golosa or Charanka. In France, Marel is a name for the game. In Turkey, it is seksek, from sek to hop. In Russian, it is known as klasiki, diminutive from the word meaning classes. In Poland, it appears in two forms, klasy, which has a rectangular shape and no marker. Instead, players call out names of various items of a given class, colors, or flowers, while jumping on successful fields. And pajak, or buffoon, which has a human shape and uses a thrown marker, example, a piece of glass or a stone. In Sweden, the game is named Hopscotch, literally meaning jumping the garden, while in Norway it is called Paradis, or paradise. In Italy, the game is known as Campana, meaning bell, or Mondo, or the world. In the Netherlands and Flanders, it is called Hinkelen, or skip. In Bosnia, Croatia, and Serbia, it is called Skolika, meaning little school. In Malaysia, the most popular variant is called Teng Teng. In Mexico, it is called Bebelich, Mamalich, meaning drinking milk, or Mamaliche, or Avancito, meaning little plane after its shape. In Cuba and in Puerto Rico, it is called La Paringa, meaning pilgrim girl. Yeah, and the squares represent the 9 rings the pilgrim traveler has to pass in order to reach heaven from purgatory, according to Dante's Inferno. In Romania, the game is called Sotran and is widely played by children all over the country. In Denmark, it is called Hink. In Brazil, it is called amarelina, evolved from marel, the French name for the game that became too closely associated with the radical amarelo, yellow, and its diminutive enrola. In Breton, the name is reg or delech. The Albanian variant is called rasave, which is composed of two words: rasa, the flat stone, an object used to play the game, and vi, or vi, the line jumping the houses. In the Philippines, hopscotch is called pico in Tagalog, and sometimes also called kiki or bicabix in Visayas or Cebuano. It is in common court in the Korea. Court in the Philippines has 6 squares. In India, hopscotch is called thickraya, because broken stones called thickraya are also slid across the grid as players hop to each square. In South Korea, hopscotch is called sabanchigi, meaning hitting the 4 cardinal directions, and is widely played across the nation. In Ghana, hopscotch is called tumatu and is mostly played by children. In Zimbabwe, the game is called pata and is mostly played by girls. In America, the game is referred to as hopscotch and is played with a marker. It's found on elementary school playgrounds and is an activity most often played by girls. The hopscotch game's generic name in Persia is lele. The most common form of lele in Iran resembles the older Western types and uses 6 or more, always an even number, side-by-side squares, successfully vertically numbered. The player uses a peg or a flat stone that the player must kick to the next square as the player is hopping. If either the stone or a player's foot lands on a line, the player forfeits the game or loses a turn. Although somewhat less common, the contemporary Western type also is played. In the Glasgow era, hopscotch is called beds or peavers. Peaver is also the name of the object which is slid across the grid to land in a square. In the 1950s and 60s in Glasgow, it was common for the peaver to be a shoe polish tin filled with stones or dirt and screwed shut. Edinburgh children also called the game peavers, played on a peaver bed with a chalked grid and a small flat tin, like a puck, where the chalk is stored during the game with the ballast. Morel, in the French word, is the name of the traditional hopscotch game in France, but a variant there is known as escargot, snail, or morel ronde, round hopscotch. The variant is played on a spiral course. Players must hop on one foot to the center of the spiral and then reverse their path to back out again. If the player reaches the center without stepping on a line or losing balance, he or she marks one square with his or her initials, and from then on may place 2 feet in that square while all other players must hop over it. In Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, the game is called Himmel und Hölle, heaven and hell, although some other names are used as well depending on the region. In India, it's called Kith Kith, and in New York City, they call it Potsy. Hopscotch, the name probably refers to a potsherd that was used as a marker. Brazil, the game is called amarelina. Chile, the game is called luche. In Australia, hopscotch is played in stages. Latin America, Raiule. South Asia, Chindro. Catalonia, Zaranica. And Ghana, Tumatu. During the COVID-19 pandemic, in April of 2020, a giant hopscotch game with nearly 1,000 squares was created in Edinburgh to be used with the following social distancing rules. The current Guinness Book of World Records holder for the fastest hopscotch game is Hopscotch J. Mike at 1 minute and 13 seconds. A hopscotch court drawn such that the area where the final step would be is instead a sheer drop, such as a building or cliff, such that any participant would fall to their death upon completion, is a motif occasionally seen in fiction, sometimes as a device for black comedy. A notable example is featured on the cover of the Korn, that's K-O-R-N album, Follow the Leader, which focuses on a young girl participating in the game at a cliff. The concept was described by Jonathan Davis as representing a loss of innocence. A 2010 PBS documentary, New York Street Games, includes Patsy described as a girl's name. In the film, Julio Cortázar based his novel Hopscotch on this game. And there you have it, folks. A look at Hopscotch in all of its glory. Coming up next week on episode 27, which will be Monday, we'll be looking at another game, another playground game. And I'm thinking maybe Hit the Stick. Let's see. I don't know. Hit the Stick. I don't know if Hit the Stick has a hit me with your rhythms. No, that doesn't have anything to do with that. Okay. What about Stoop Ball? I remember Stoop Ball, right? Stoop Ball was kind of played like baseball. There is variations. New York Street Games. Let's see. They got stickball, ring levos, kick the can, punch ball, slap ball, hit the stick, which is not there. Let's see. Steal the bacon, ace, king, queen, red rover, box ball. Interesting. Let's see. Box ball. Dates back to at least the 1950s. Okay. So that'll be our next sport, or next next game. They call it Foursquare, or box ball, basically. That'll be coming up on episode 27 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm Jason DeCanio. Thank you again for all your support. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out on Anchor and Spotify as well. And keep up with the Facebook group pages as well. We continue to thank you for all that you do. And remember to go check out Metro Diner in Oviedo for all you Oviedo people out there who live here locally, as I have. Oviedo Diner's got some great food, as you probably know, and great specials. Check them out. And don't forget that Jason DeCanio told you to go over there and try out some great food. But go on a day when it's not so crowded. Maybe like during the week. That would be all right, too. See you on Monday. Have a great weekend. And always remember, be honest, be real, and keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. Have a good night and a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Democracy Network for great more content like this one.